one of my interests is in system dynamics, and it sort of links my interest in physics and people, physics and psychology.
Hmm.
So for many years, I've been running this group for the System Dynamics Society on psychology and human behavior and modeling that. And we got into modeling societal collapse. So, and then one of my friends said, "Well, why don't we model this Maya collapse?" And that was about 8 years ago. And so we went on this journey for 8 years, trying to submit papers and getting rejected. And finally, we have one, and getting uh, actually my expert help us along at different places. So finally, we got to a point where I think we have a solid paper with a connection to um, data, and the
Hmm.
modeling, and they match. And it's about looking at a dynamic model of the collapse of the Maya kings over a period of 200 years. So we can model um, the we look at cities,
Hmm.
and we can understand how the lifetime of of a kingship in a city because of the monuments the Maya created, which give dates. It's actual language. It was just deciphered 20 years ago, and these dates tell you when the kingship started and sort of when it ended for the particular states. And it was over 200 years that they call it that they started. They grew. We can show a plot where they grow, and then it can show a plot where they collapse. Um, and we have a model about that to show that and sort of understand uh, when it peaks, when it declines, and understand reason behind it. It's sort of a macroscopic model, which is not usual in archaeology. You don't usually see dynamic models. You just see people giving narratives. This so
Personal research. Okay.
my two of my authors colleagues. One is a professor in Maine, and another is a retired professor in England.
Okay.
So it's on our own. We've done it on our own. It's sponsored by us. It's not sponsored by anyone. So
Wow. And did you spend time in academia, or like what's
I,
where's the background coming from?
well, I have a PhD in physics,
Yep.
mathematical
Okay.
physics, and so I spent time getting that. And
Yeah.
after I left, I did not. Well, I'd been in Vietnam. I got drafted into the army in Vietnam, and I went to Viet from graduate school.
After getting your PhD.
No, I
No.
got drafted while getting my master's degree.
Okay.
That had, they were drafting people from college, and
Yeah.
I spent a year in Vietnam, and I came back and went right back to get the PhD. It took 6 years, 7 years, um, but I did not want to spend any more time in the academic world
Hmm.
at that point. I mean, I really dug deep into
Right.
strange forms of, I mean, really mathematical physics,
Hmm.
devoid from reality. Um, so I got a job as in working on satellites. So I spent many years working on satellite warp, spacecraft attitude, which is orientation of satellites. Um,
And
and
that was with NASA.
we had a contract with NASA. Mhm. And
Okay.
then I spent my career is like 37 years at the Computer Science Corporation, which had this contract with NASA. And I did many more things. I had to change what I did in order to stay with the company and
Hmm.
be compensated reasonably well. I just had to. So I ended up being a methodologist, the corporate methodologist, doing stuff like methodology for innovation and methodology for agile development before I retired in 2014. But since then, now I can pursue my other effort. I could keep going on. I enjoy doing mathematics. I enjoy doing applying mathematics to psychological phenomena. So I got involved in System Dynamics Society and been running this group for about 13 years. And we just work on problems, or we just discuss issues. Or last year we studied the book by Turchin on end times.
Yeah. So looking at societal collapse from the perspective of, you know, data science and, from the mind of a physicist, It's fascinating. It's like it's just a completely different perspective than you would get from anywhere else. I'm still interested in like connecting the dots from, this career in physics working with NASA to, I guess your interest in these more social science, psychology,
Well,
like how does
here's
that weave into the story?
the story. Here's after I left CSC, after I left graduate school in '77, I went to Maryland, for which I had to look up a map of where it was, and went to NASA, um, contract with NASA on satellites, and we worked on a satellite solar maximum mission I worked on for 3 years, trying to. I was in charge of the attitude, at least principal analyst of the spacecraft attitude, make sure it's pointed in the right direction. When it was launched in 1980, they have star sensors that would match the catalog of stars with what the actual stars were so that we could orient the satellite.
Hmm.
Well, when we launched the satellite, we couldn't find this. We couldn't find the stars. The stars. It couldn't find the stars. It was a major problem. I wrote about this on Medium, and the one our lead said one of the lead of he said high school students could do a better job of doing this. This is at the control center, and so luckily we were able to go off and try to figure out what was wrong. And it turned out that the mapping it should have been like this. So I figured out it was really a switch. And once we did that and uploaded that, we were able to see the stars. But that was sort of a traumatic experience, having gone through Vietnam, 10 years into the um, studying physics. It, I was pretty into myself, and I was ready for a change. And so one of my friends, and I wrote about this in the article for Immersion. One of my friends said, "Why don't you try this Lifespring training?" So I did that, and I could see major changes in me and other people, and I wondered why. Why is these changes so significant? And that was the milestone in my life. It led me to the martial arts, to psychology, um, to getting married. So, so um, that was a major milestone. I became interested in people, and then got interested in neurolinguistic programming a couple of years later. Um, Became a trainer, a coach, while trying to maintain. So I don't, I haven't worked on a life where I'm going one direction in one field.
Hmm.
It's more of a life where I'm a modeler of many fields, and whatever, and that's how it turned out for some reason. So I wouldn't say I was an expert in anything, but I would say I was a master in many things. Um, so does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, you know, my background is, gosh, I studied mechanical engineering and then switched into physics. So I've got a BS in physics and then a PhD in biomedical engineering, and just maybe have not, I would say not nearly as a fascinating of a background as you have, but totally different and can relate to this idea of not becoming an expert in one specific thing or spending my career doing one specific thing, but kind of I feel like I'm a person who's knows just enough to be dangerous about a whole lot of different things.
That's good. I think that's good because you don't get you can be biased. Once you're an expert, you have a lot of biases. Not that you don't anyway, but even more so. And so attached to something that may not be true. That might be true.
Yeah, you know what? Like that is one of the fundamental tenets of this Authbition thing is this idea of non-attachment, right? Don't get so attached to uh I mean from everything from who I am, like don't get so attached to who I am as a person, but also don't get attached to my ideas or, gosh, I spend my time coaching medical innovators who are interested in, some of them are interested in being entrepreneurs, like starting their own companies based on the technology that they've been building in their labs. Others are maybe not so interested in the entrepreneurship side of it, but they want to see the work that's happening in their lab make it out into the world as a commercial product. And one of the big issues that we face is how attached they are to the technology itself as opposed to solving the problem in the real world. And that's like making that transition of non-attachment to the solution and more attachment to resolving problems is a really interesting shift in this whole world of attachment and non-attachment. Uh, I've never thought about it the way that you just described it, that by being a you know a master of none, kind of kind of a life has enabled less attachment, right? Like by not becoming the expert, I've avoided this narrow view of over attached to, how I see things. Really interesting. I think even Einstein said it himself, right? Like, don't let you don't want to, once you become so good in the field of physics, you're less likely to come up with some idea that breaks the laws of physics, right? So as a young scientist, he's breaking the laws of physics, and it's one of the issues that I kind of have with school. I've got this love-hate relationship with school because I feel like school teaches, this is physics. This is it. And I'm
Mhm.
like, no, that's one version of physics. You know,
So you deal a lot with psychology of the people you're helping. Psych Psychology, or is it more technology? Sounds
it's
like psychology.
yeah, it's funny because I've got like no formal training in psychology, right? But even as a college professor, I found myself more helping students through existential crises than I did in, you know, teaching the hard science, right? So I'm much more involved in psychosocial issues than I am in technology. Why do you want to do what you're doing? What is the drive behind it?
Mhm.
So I've kind of landed in a similar but different space as you, and it's like fascinating to meet, um, you know, to meet like-minded folks, and I just like how we ended up in a writing group together, and at first blush, I'm not wondering who's a PhD physicist who's worked at NASA in the room. Like that's not. It took a long time to start to put those puzzle pieces together.
Yeah, it's a eclectic group. Um,
It is. Yeah, I love it. When did the writing, like, when did you move from, you know, everything else that you're doing to writing and being a writer on Medium and
well, I guess I started writing a blog on a website.
Mhm.
I don't know, maybe 8 years ago. And then in 2022, or 2000, let's see, 2022, 3 years ago, I had heart surgery, open heart surgery. So my heart was fine, but my arteries were not. So, and I recovered from that. And, it makes you think about life and all. And so what I did was, I'm not sure how I got on Medium. All I know, there was a IO, he had a program on how to write in Medium, and I went to his workshops, and I started writing on Medium. Um, uh, I guess 3 years ago, and converting. First, I started converting some of my articles there. Then I started trying to learn how to you. Medium is great because you can tell who is interested in your articles or your work or your stories because you can see, how many people look at it, how many people read it, and that's good feedback. And so I just started writing, 30 or 40 articles so far. Then I shifted from most of my articles are nonfiction. Then I started writing satire. So that jumped me into fiction, and then I decided, why don't I write a longer form? So I joined this class on writing. Um, I have no idea how to write a novel. I'm trying to learn how to, like a physicist would, put the pieces
Yeah.
together. Um, but it's good. It's good to write with people.
Hmm.
You're not writing, so I enjoy the write. So that's another piece that brings me back into it. Mhm.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I have no idea how to write a novel. I also have no idea how to write fiction. And I'm trying both of them right now. I just think it's making me a better writer, to try things that are uncomfortable and not natural. And then when I go back to, I think memoirs come more natural to me. And when I go back and I write the memoir, I feel like my memoirs are getting better because of the lessons that I'm learning in long form fiction writing. Um, so yeah, it's fun. It's fun to land in the same writing cohort with you, and yeah, the whole journey's been fantastic. Awesome.
There's more to come.
More, yeah, yeah, more to come.
A new year. A
Yeah, I've
new,
got some goals this year. Do you have, I mean, well, I guess there's a couple of questions in this one question. Are you a New Year's resolutionist or not a New Year's resolutionist? And, do you have goals or no goals or how's that story look for you?
I don't. I have projects I work on, you know, and my goal is to continue to finish the projects. Like this is my project, which is this paper, another paper. That's one
Hmm.
thread. I
Hmm.
have. I want to. I practice karate, so I want to improve my forms, and I take Tai Chi. So that's another goal is to. Um, I don't make them New Year's. I just notice something I need to change or I need to work on. I notice that when I do a movement or a form, I'll do it so fast I'll miss moves. I
Hmm.
have to step back and try to visualize each piece working through it. So I'm going to be 80 this year. So, got to keep that mental agility going. And so I'm thinking of the different areas I'm in. I run the different groups I run, I think of what I want to do, but I don't do it in a plan, like a 1 year plan, a 5 year plan. I'm not doing it anymore. I just try to enjoy what I'm doing and move forward, um, dropping stuff that I may not want to do. I wrote for a trainers group every 3 months. I said, well, that's enough of that. And I retired from that. So, trying to, you know, um, spend time with my wife, my family, so there's just nothing like, I don't have any goals like that. Oh, except finishing papers and ongoing projects, one step at a time, but nothing major.
Yeah, well, sage advice, especially, I mean, Um, you seem to be in incredibly good health despite the heart surgery that you went through. You seem to be in incredibly good health for coming on 80 years old.
Well, I exercise a lot. I have a gym in my basement. I have a personal trainer twice a week, like this morning, and practice karate once or twice a week. We have a session we get together on Saturday mornings. Take Tai Chi when sessions are with my wife. Um, so I pretty much exercise is pretty good. I have getting over PMR. I'm not sure you know what PMR is, where your immune system attacks your muscles after a certain age.
Mm,
And so when you first start, you can't move. I couldn't move, but you take prednisone, and you have to manage that by managing the side effects of prednisone. But I think I'm almost over that. Um, with a low dosage of prednisone. So I think I might even be over it. So you may, so I was thinking this. I was going to write a piece on that. On what do you think about in terms of exercise as you get older and
yeah.
80? And one thing is, you think of aerobics and weight training and physical stuff, but you can't forget rehab. Well, this muscle may break, so you have to have that rehab part in there, so that you have a broken, a tendon in your knee that's swollen. So you go to rehab. So your rehab gets incorporated in your daily, your for life. So the more and more as you get older, the more and more rehab portion. Like this morning, my trainer was working on, was it shoulder rehab, leg rehab. So you build the muscles around the joint or something, so you don't, you know, it doesn't pay, not as painful. If so, so there's things you have to think about. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, it makes a ton of sense. Actually, I really love the attitude of thinking about that rehab is part of the exercise, right? I mean, it's like it's instead of it being it sounds like your attitude is less about like, oh no, now I'm in a setback of having to deal with rehab. It's more like, no, rehab is just it's just part of the exercise, which, I bet it's maybe more consistent with professional athletes, right? If you look at a professional athlete now, these folks are in, the prime shape of their lives, and 20-year-old, 30-year-old professional athletes. uh I imagine, and I mean, I know some, but I imagine that rehab is a regular part of their exercise because they're constantly getting injured and, on the field or on their bikes or, on the court or wherever they're practicing their sport, they're getting hurt. And so rehab is just part of it. Um, and so I kind of love that that's your attitude right now. It's like it's kind of the same attitude as an athlete.
One thing is I like to record things as physicist. Like
Hmm.
when I had heart surgery, my resting heart rate before surgery was like 58, 55. See, then it jumped to 85 after surgery, and it took me 4 months before it went down. I applauded it, and down to about 55 again, and I got back into karate um, after rehab in the hospital for 4 months. Um, uh, uh,
Mm.
so I like to measure things, Fitbit, heart monitor, so blood, so, and that external feedback. Even with a personal trainer who tells you, straighten up. Um,
Hmm.
like as you get older, you tend to go like this, or at least I do. Okay,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
so I saw this waiter in a restaurant, and he was like this. He's walking like Rocky down just as a waiter. I said, "Holy cow, what is this guy doing?" So now I told it to my trainer, and now when I flip over, she goes, "Waiter," I have to shift back like the anchor.
Yeah.
So I guess there's a lot of things you do. Oh,
Feedback is incredible. Yeah, I mean, without knowing what we're doing, it's really hard to it's hard to tell. I mean, do you think so that some of the biometrics could get overdone? Like how well am I sleeping? How well am I, how many steps am I walking? Where does it cross the line between, a useful metric that you can track over time, versus a goal? I get, so this is a topic that I'm really interested in. It's like when goals become metrics, they lose their intention, or the intention is lost. I've kind of talked about this and I've written about it, and so it's like I love the idea of metrics, hey, what has my heart rate variability been over the course of, this month? And hey, when I ate something, what happened to it? Or when I acted a certain way, and looking at it as a retrospective metric to learn from, as as opposed to setting the metric as the goal. Like my goal is to have this heart rate variability of this, or my goal is to have my heart rate, my resting heart rate be that. And I feel like when we set the metric as the goal, we're chasing after the wrong thing. So I'm just, someone who's, you've made you're 80 years old, you're in great health, you're doing karate, you're doing, Tai Chi, you've recovered from, major things in life, and you're interested in the biometrics. So I'm kind of curious.
well, some biometrics are like the doctor told me, don't go above 115 when you do heart rate. So okay, so I don't go below 115. So it's a monitor. How much do
Hmm.
I don't feel, I mean, physically I can associate feeling with
Hmm.
how far I am. Or like with prednisone, okay, this might not be the answer. Prednisone, you could get diabetes. I could get diabetes. So it's in my family. Prednisone lowers your immune system. It increases your glucose count. You know, if you have glucose is too high, you could get diabetes. For me, very likely. It's in my family. So what do? I take a blood every morning and I look at it as long as I'm on prednisone. And if it's below 100, I feel good. So it's a
Hmm.
monitor, sort of like it's a check. It's a
Hmm.
check, not a goal. It's a sort of like more our check. Are you here in the right place? That's one set of it. The other
Right.
thing, I have an informal idea in my mind that I need to do some sort of exercise every day or every other day at most.
Hmm.
So if I so that's sort of a quantitative thing. I have a Fitbit. I don't care about the steps. My Fitbit.
Yeah.
I just use it as a with a heart monitor. I also uses I check with it. Um, um, so it's a check.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm just trying how you. I think the question is how useful are these measures and what are they measuring for? Are they
Yeah.
rather than being something as a goal in itself? It's
Yeah.
just check on your the goal. The intention is to strengthen muscles, exercise, be physically fit. So balance, work on balance when you're
Hmm.
my age. Is that okay? These things are just checks along the way to make sure there's enough. And you may not, in some cases, I could feel like I haven't exercised enough, or for some reason I've been sick, or
Yeah.
I'm slowing
Yeah.
down. So I think it's just add as a tool, but not as a goals in itself, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. It makes a ton of sense.
Um,
Yeah. I'm thinking about like just driving a car or a truck and all the measurements that you have on the dashboard are checks, right? So like my goal is not to hit 75 miles an hour. My metric is, hey, watch out if I go over that. It might be dangerous or I might get myself a speeding ticket, right? I don't have a goal. I don't get in the car and say, my goal is to get the engine temperature up to a certain point. But I do want to watch it because if it goes over that temperature, it's like, whoa, this isn't good for my truck. And what I see a lot is with the biometrics, and of course my area is biomedical engineering. So I'm really interested in this cross section of engineering, biology, medicine, and of course the whole psychosocial piece of it. Um, and I kind of see a lot of, you know, trying to hit the metric, right? Like trying to get to a certain, I need to get to a certain number of REM sleep hours. I need to get to a certain amount of deep sleep. I want to get my HRV to a certain point. And they're trying to like get to the metric, which it's just such a weird way to think about it, especially as an engineer and a scientist. We wouldn't ever think about trying to get to the metrics in our vehicle, as opposed to watch out if it goes over. You don't. It's like your heart rate. You don't want to get your RPMs up above a certain number. You're going to blow up the engine. Especially when we used to have manual transmissions.
my wife has manual transmission,
Yeah,
and I
my
did
wife does too. My wife has a manual transmission
It's only
also.
a whole family had it for a while until we get, some of us. My son has a manual transmission, so, and my son just got rid of one, so we're other son, so
But it still matters, right? That tachometer in the manual transmission, uh, and anybody that's ever driven a manual transmission can likely relate to the fact that they're not actually looking at the dial. They can just tell from the sound, they can tell from the feel. You just get a natural feel for when it's the right RPMs to shift. And you can gun it too, right? You need to get moving really fast. You can red line it, right? So we've all anybody that's driven a manual transmission has probably been in a situation where they're redlining intentionally, right? You don't want to go over that red line because you don't want to blow the engine up. It's just not a goal, right? Like the goal isn't like my goal today is to, my goal is to redline my engine, 3 times a week, right?
here's another example. I think, as an experiment, like my wife does this breathing technique I started doing. It's, You take a couple of deep breaths, you wait a few minutes, you hold it for a few minutes, and then you relax it for, not a few minutes, but it's like a certain count, another count, a third count. And you
Hmm.
do that before, as you're going to sleep. You know, and I noticed that when you do that, for my watch at least, the REM increases, the deep sleep increases. So I'm not sure what's going on, but
Hmm.
so you can experiment with these things by taking the technique and then seeing its effect on you.
Right.
So, and then you can not worry about the monitor anymore, just do the technique. So,
Right. Yeah.
and the
Yeah,
other,
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It's nuanced, right? I mean, I think that that's a great example of hey, let me try a different breathing technique before I go to bed, or let me try a different, you know, tea, to have tea or to not have tea before I go to bed, or how early did I cut off my caffeine? There's a bunch of choices that we can make throughout the course of a day where those biometrics are insights on how we might change our behavior. Um, but but they're retrospective. It's like we look at them and say, oh, what happened? Maybe I should think twice about you know having that espresso martini after dinner. It's like every time I have that espresso martini after dinner, it just just kills my sleep or whatever, right? And so you don't necessarily need a watch to tell you that, but um, I'm a big fan too. I'm a big fan of biometrics. I've seen it for me, especially as a cyclist too. I've seen my Garmin watch turn from I don't even have I don't wear it anymore because I used to wear it 24/7. And I stopped wearing it 24/7 because I realized, man, I'm actually trying to get to the metric instead of using it as that retrospective thing. And so I've been guilty of it myself. It's like, okay, yeah,
happens to everybody here. Me
yeah.
too.
Oh man. So cool. All right. So you hinted a little bit, I think, about the piece that you're going to read today. I've read it and I loved it, and I'm excited to uh, to hear you read it on the show today.
So it's called The Dark Side of the Human Potential Movement. This is a cautionary tale for those involved in personal growth. This includes trainers and those taking on personal growth training. It is also the story of how a lonely physicist decided he liked people and got hooked on psychology. Our son Daniel suggested we listen to the six-part podcast, The Good Cult. In it, Riva Donahue tells the story of Lifespring Company, a personal growth company. Daniel knew other family members had taken the Lifespring training. My sister, my brother, my family, mother, father. Donahue grew up in a family involved in personal growth seminars. If his parents hadn't taken an offshoot of Lifespring, he would never have been born. We told Daniel it was the same for us. Without Lifespring, he would not have been born either. Lifespring was an offshoot of the human potential movement. In the 1940s, Abraham Maslow broke from psychology's focus on studying the worst in people and instead studied what made people thrive. He said, a musician must make music, an artist must paint, a poet must write. If he is to be ultimately at peace with himself, what a man can be, he must be. The need we may call self actualization. This tendency might be phrased as a desire to become more and more of what one is, to become everything that one can become. Maslow's ideas and the work of others led in the 1970s to the human potential movement. John Hanley founded Lifespring in 1974 and dissolved it in the mid 1990s. It was a positive and empowering experience for many attending his trainings, but there were allegations of harm. In 1987, Mark Fisher wrote an expose of Lifespring in the Washington Post. He said, the company's early growth came to a crashing halt in the early 80s, following a rash of bad publicity about psychotic episodes and even deaths during and after Lifespring trainings. In The Good Cult, Donahue suggested Lifespring was seen as a cult because it pressured participants to enroll others. Did Lifespring help people? What went wrong? How could the same organization do so much good for some and such harm to others? This article touches on these questions from a personal perspective. Responsibility. Lifespring wanted people to take responsibility for their lives. To do this, Hanley, Lifespring's CEO, felt participants needed to undergo a major transformation. This would force participants to leave their comfort zones and reach their full potential. Before creating Lifespring, Hanley attended a mind dynamics workshop. Their trainers placed him in a coffin for 12 hours to break his resistance until he had a breakthrough. This sounds like torture. Lifespring's way of confronting people appeared mild. One technique was asking a participant to confront their greatest fear. I was painfully shy toward women when I took Lifespring's first training. They had me write a poem and read it to an unknown woman in a bar. To me, the experience was both frightening and exhilarating. Everyone has different fears. According to Donahue, Lifespring encouraged someone who could not swim to confront his fear of water. To do this, he tried swimming in the Colorado River and drowned. The trainers may have implied that conquering fear was just mind over matter, yet they may not have addressed how to conquer the fear and stay physically safe. The Lifespring's trainings were experiential. In one exercise, participants had to discuss when they had experienced being a victim. They were to repeat the same story as if they were responsible. But what if the person was a rape victim? Lifespring did not distinguish between different victim experiences. Some people had to relive traumatic experiences without proper supervision. Others may have felt they were blamed for being the victim. In 1987, Fisher wrote, "Until a few years ago, Hanley preached that everyone is totally responsible for their life. There is no such thing as a victim. Today, Hanley says, I have matured in my view. Instead of telling students they are responsible for everything, Lifespring asked them to take a stand for responsibility, one careful step removed from the old lesson." What did Hanley mean by take a stand? In his 2012 book, Are You Getting It? He wrote, "Any kind of assault, for example, is horrible, but perhaps just as terrible or even more so would be to see someone conclude as a result of the assault that there's something wrong with them." Choosing responsibility in cases like this can boil down to choosing to simply accept that the event happened and refusing to give up belief in one's value and the value of engagement in the world. This is important. Hanley says to take responsibility for how you think about an event. This is something you can change, how you think about it. The victim exercise illustrates a key approach to bringing about change in people's lives, namely, place people in situations where they can examine their life from another view. The bright side. I took 3 Lifespring trainings from March 1980 to July 1980. The decade from 1970 to 1980 was difficult for me. I started as an Army medic in a war zone and finished it as a physicist at a NASA mission control room. Even the month before the training was hard. I was trying to prevent a satellite from becoming space junk. In February 1980, after we resolved the satellites problem, I was more ready for something new. A friend introduced me to Lifespring. Taking the Lifespring trainings had a profound influence on my life. I discovered I liked people, connected with my emotional side, and felt empowered. I found the courage to meet a beautiful woman after the training. She later became my wife and still is. Lifespring renewed my lifehood interest in psychology. I wondered how Lifespring's exercises could change people. I would not be writing this article if I had not taken the training, and I would not be a neurosemantics trainer or a life coach. Neurosemantics has roots in neurolinguistic programming. During the first training, I caught a woman who fainted. We became friends, and she introduced me to her husband. He was taking karate. I joined the karate dojo in 1980 and now teach karate in self-defense. We both received our first black belts during the same exam in 1999. I gained so much from Lifespring that I was happy to encourage my family and friends to take the training. My parents, aunts, 2 siblings, and my childhood friend Jerry took the training. I recently asked my sister what she thought of the training, and she had only positive things to say about it. Jerry came from Boston to Washington, D.C. to save me from the Lifespring cult. He took the first training. Last week, I asked him what he thought of the training. He told me Lifespring had helped him escape from the shell. He said he could be more honest and direct at work. The dark side. Now we turn to the dark side of Lifespring. In The Good Cult, Donahue repeatedly described John Henley as a convicted felon and a con artist who transformed himself into a widely successful New Age guru. Before we found Lifespring, Henley had ran scams with his father-in-law. Was Lifespring Henley's latest scam? I don't think so. As a life coach, I'm optimistic that people can transform their lives. The training Henley developed was effective in helping many people. What went wrong with Lifespring? Here are two issues. The first comes from the Good Cult podcast. One, a misguided policy. In 1979, a woman died after an asthma attack during Lifespring training. Lifespring had a policy of checking people's medications at the door. This included the woman's inhaler. Lifespring viewed medication as a crutch. During an emotional exercise, the woman was having trouble breathing. When the trainer saw her, he asked her to consider what was causing the attack. Then he walked away from her. He came back later and discovered she was having problems. According to her sister, he took her out of the training and brought her to the front office. He insisted she did not need her medication, and even after she requested it. Her symptoms did not abate, and he pushed her out the door without her inhaler. The woman collapsed on the street and died soon after leaving the training. I think the trainer's belief may have been physical symptoms are excuses for avoiding a breakthrough. He did not recognize that her symptoms might be life-threatening. 2. Managing trainers. In his 2002 book, Hanley had a short section on managing trainers. He said, I have to admit that a few trainers did go overboard at times, when they felt their ends justify the means. Maybe I should have had some zero tolerance when it came to renegade trainers, or more responsibility. He discussed other issues with his trainers not meeting his standards. Perhaps there was a high level of self-importance among trainers. I did not see any mention of how he trained his trainers. Was there a training organization within his company? The Good Cult did an excellent job of exposing Lifespring's failings. Unfortunately, people died. The podcast seemed to lose sight of good things Lifespring did. Many people benefit from the training that Lifespring provided and were able to change their lives, like I did. In January 2023, I was present when Michael Hall, founder of Neurosemantics, coached a business executive. Trainers, coaches, and business people were present. The client was unreceptive to being coached. Michael told the client why they could not continue with the session. He later emailed coaches describing the session and what he would do differently next time. This is an example of a coach acting responsibly when he realizes coaching itself will not work for his client. The learning organization has that power. I'm not sure Lifespring was one. So Donahue, he actually contacted me, the guy who wrote and he wanted access to the article, so it was on the Medium under a firewall, so I gave him access. I haven't heard from him yet, but maybe I'll send him this.
I mean, it's really fairly written, right? I mean, it's I didn't hear anything in there where you're taking a side, right? I mean, you're talking so openly about how much it benefited your own life. I mean, you wouldn't be with the woman you're with, and you wouldn't have the child you have if you didn't go through it. And so, this line between, taking I mean, there's so many pieces in there, but the responsibility of a coach, I think what struck me, which was it was impossible to ignore. And there was no way to predict that this was going to happen. But when I wrote my bio in the book Emergent, I like used the exact same words that are in your title
I noticed.
around human potential, and I'm like, my bio is like, a coach that, helps people to achieve their human potential, and then there's an essay in there that's like the dark side of human potential, and I'm like, this is fantastic. I you couldn't have planned that any better. And there's talk about responsibility. I mean, I feel like as a teacher, as a coach, as a professor, the amount of influence that we have on other human beings, as an entrepreneur. I mean, entrepreneurs, they have so much influence on other people's lives that the that there's a responsibility there, right? That they have to take, right? And of course, as the student, um, we take responsibility too to go through these transformations. So that it is just a fascinating fine line of, was this Lifespring guy in, you know, you want to believe that there was this very good person that had this dream to have this great impact on the world. And when you grow up any organization, things go a little bit haywire, training materials and any organization. You're trying to make a widget or whatever, and it's you know three people and a dog in a garage, and they're working on making some widget, and then it turns into a 200-person company, and all of a sudden stuff's going haywire. So you want to believe that, hey, when they were originally envisioning this program, it was like all for good. It did a lot of good, and then stuff went haywire. So
Yeah, and
yeah,
it unanticipated consequences
yeah,
that
yeah,
were not addressed soon enough.
yeah. I thought it was so well written.
Thank you.
Um, and I don't know if you're into playing this whole mind game thing that I do sometimes on the show. Not everybody plays it with me, but
Sure.
if you're into it, like I'm kind of like I wrote down, there was two I call these like the word pair or the tension pair, the two words that kind of like are in conflict with each other. While you were reading, I wrote down two.
Only two.
Well, two options to
Oh
play.
yeah, I understand. I understand.
Two options to play. And of course, we can pick a tension that you're interested in, something. Actually, if I'd love to hear from you first. Is there a tension that you're like into? Like, oh yeah, I've watched Andrew's show before, and there's something I want to try this whole mind game on. Do you have anything in mind?
I have watched at least 1.5 episodes, but I don't have anything in mind. But I can talk more about that once we start this exercise.
Yeah, okay, great. So while you were reading the tensions that I wrote down, one of them was this idea of responsibility versus victim.
Mhm.
Which are you? Are you the responsible party, or are you the victim? And then the other one that I wrote down, which you have right in one sentence, is like frightening and exhilarating.
Ah,
And that's like the way you phrased it right in the way that the whole mind game is set up with like, you know, frightening and exhilarating. It was both. And I find that in life when two things that are typically seen as a tension are experienced as an end, when they come out naturally like that, it's like life playing out the whole mind game and naturally instead of trying to seek for it, if that makes any sense. Um, so those are the two that jumped out. I don't know if
so
if, if
let's talk about the second one first. Is frightening and exhilarating.
yeah, frightening and exhilarating.
Um,
Okay.
so so in the field of neurosemantics, there's something called metastates,
Uh-huh.
and and yeah, I could think of as just an example and go back to frightening. So whenever I'm I can be fearful. Someone the other day, well, not a couple of years ago, someone was threatening me. Okay.
Hmm.
And the way he talked, um, I suggested something on a counter and he made this comment and I thought, well, this guy's reacted out of the way. So fear right there.
Hmm.
Right. I just came out of teaching karate. Fear. But yet immediately calm went over that. So so it was calm fear. I'm still afraid, but I'm calm for it. So two states over each other. So when I think of frightening and exhilarated these days, it's frighteningly exhilarated or exhilaratedly frightened.
Yeah.
It's two different pieces to it. They can go together, but they're two. Each one, like fear, is a frame, and then I put
Yeah.
calm on top of it. So I'm
Yeah.
calm fear. much better than fearfully calm.
Yeah.
So when you had I'm listening to your contrast, I'm thinking, okay, yeah, they're both there, but which one is the foreground, which was the background?
Mm.
Um, and frighteningly exhilarated is really more exciting to me. Yes, than exhilarate frightened. You have to feel what it is. So I'm thinking metastates. I'm thinking one state above the other. So that was that one. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm curious if you want to actually like go through the game itself to see.
So what's the steps? Just let's go.
Yeah, it's six. It's six questions.
Okay.
I asked what's the best and the worst of each side of the tension. The reason why I came up with this game is because whenever I would hear anybody talk about bringing two tensions together, it sounds great. Like it's like, yes, I get it. It's like it resonates. Um, but I could never like actually put it into practice when faced with a this or that, just in the middle of a day, it's like, okay, I get it, but I don't have a way to put it into practice. So I made the game just as a way to say, hey, when faced with something that's maybe not so naturally when we don't arrive at it so naturally, is there a little process that we can work through and see how we think about it differently?
I can say more about the meaning of those two terms in the context I, going to a bar and writing a poem. But
Yeah.
let's go through your exercise first, and then maybe it'll answer
Let's see where it turns out. So yeah, and the idea is to try to boil it down. Each question we try to boil down to one word or a short phrase, and that's kind of just part of how it's played. Um, we'll play it out loud and see what happens. So if we look at frightening and exhilarating, just what's the best thing about being frightened? Like what is the good of being frightened?
in that situation or general.
And just yeah, if you just think in terms of the word, fright, being frightened, is there a what's the good side of it? It doesn't have to be in that specific situation.
Alertness.
Alertness. I like it. Yeah. I'm not going to try to add to it. I think I want to play both games with you. So I want to play responsibility and victim too.
That's a good
Okay.
one.
So the best of being frightened is alert. I love it. What about the worst? What's the worst about being frightened?
Well, danger.
Yeah. Uh, the word that's jumping at me um is like frozen, becoming frozen, like right, rigid,
Like paralyzed with fear.
paralyzed. Yeah. Uh, paralyzed. I like paralyzed. Yeah, paralyzed with fear.
I think that's probably good too. I would say that one also. Paralyzed with fear is good for that one.
Yeah. Okay. So it's there's a scene from one of my son and I love this movie. Uh, and of course I'm gonna struggle with the name. It's called Mavericks. I think it's this movie about this guy that surfs these huge waves. And he's got a teacher who's teaching him how to be surf these giant waves, and he's doing all kinds of training out in the ocean where they do underwater adventures and stuff, and in one of these underwater situations they're faced with like a shark, um and the kid panics, and they get to the surface of the boat and the teacher's like, what the hell happened down there? And the kid's like, I was afraid, there's a shark. I was afraid, and the teacher says, like fear is normal, right? Like fear is fine, but the panic, that'll kill you, right? So it's like this idea of paralyzed puts you in this danger.
I think
Um, you
I
know, versus the alertness of like, hey, there's a shark. I'm afraid, but now now I'm alert. So,
I think when I said danger, it was in my mind, there's a bias toward being active.
hmm.
So as you said, paralyzed. So you're right.
Oh, interesting.
It's more frightening to be paralyzed,
Hmm.
but danger, I wouldn't quite accept. I always, I don't want
Uh,
to be paralyzed. So I sort of copped out there and said, think to myself, if I notice danger, I could be active. If I'm paralyzed, I can't. So maybe that's a
no,
little.
that's great too. I mean, it is the worst, right? So we're talking about what's the worst situation, what's the worst of being frightened, and if the bias is towards paralysis,
Right.
that's dangerous.
Right.
But if the bias is towards action, that could also be very dangerous, right? Like
Could be
you
dangerous because someone has a gun pointed at you. What do?
you're
It's
right.
get in my car. You don't want to get in someone's car when someone's pointing a gun at you.
Yeah.
So you're frightened, but you've got to do something. So it's
Yeah.
highly dangerous.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. I love that clarification that whether it's bias towards action and bias towards
Mhm.
freezing, it's the worst situation is danger, right? All right, so let's look at the other side, exhilarating. Um, so what's the best thing about exhilarating?
Well, it's a word for itself.
Yeah, it is a word for it.
It's exciting. It's okay. Exhilarating. It's hyped up excitement. It's really not just like being excited. It's really being excited. It's a really hyped up version of, this is like life. I haven't experienced this in 2000 years. This is like, um,
Yeah, like it. I like it.
a hyped up excitement.
Yeah, it's like it's not just fun, it's super fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Super,
Yeah,
super,
like I'm just gonna write that super fun. It's
super.
just it's extra fun.
It's more than fun though. It's more than having fun. It's more of a deeper experience than just this is fun. This is like really, really, this is beyond my normal experiences in a very
Hmm.
feeling, emotional way, whatever that is.
Okay, yeah, I love it. Hyped up.
Hyped up enthusiasm, hyped up. Um,
I like it. I like the emotion. It's like hyped up emotions, right? Um, I'm just gonna go with hyped up excitement.
that's good. That's good.
Let's see, what's the worst of exhilarating? What could be the downside of it?
It's temporary. It's the downside of exhilarating.
It is, yeah,
It's
so
temporary, or it's misguided, or it's hard to think of a worst other than
I'll give an example of this is where the game gets a little bit funky or so I'll say for authenticity, because the show's got authenticity and ambition in it. And I'll say, so, what's a downside of being authentic? And oftentimes a word that'll come up with is vulnerable, like, oh, the downside is being vulnerable. And it's like, if you stop to think about it, then actually vulnerability is a attribute of authenticity, so it's more like if we kind of chase it down to what is actually the bad thing of being vulnerable, it's like being taken advantage of. So if I am authentic, I may be taken advantage of. So it's like what does it lead to the bad? So in what I'm thinking about, like what is the worst of exhilarating? The worst of exhilarating might be I'm gonna go with something like misguided, or if this is so exhilarating, I might chase the wrong thing. I might I I might yeah, I might run after the wrong thing. It's just like I'm thinking that the worst part of being
you could be exhilarated because of taking some exotic drug.
so it could be dangerous too.
dangerous.
Yeah,
But
misguided,
misguided works. Misguided works.
dangerous.
Um,
I guess
or
like
or wanting to keep being that way, but not being able to, not realizing it's not something that's every day, and trying to go strive for being exhilarated all the time. But it's something that's
uh,
appreciated for the moment.
that's a great. So you led with temporary, and so it's like it is temporary as a feature of it.
Mhm.
But the when you start to get to the when we start to get to the best and the worst of the features of exhilarating, the temp it being temporary, a worst case might be trying to make it permanent, trying to make this feeling last longer than it could.
It's how you frame exhilarating.
Yeah.
Whether it's fine, it's great, wonderful. Now that's good. Other than I want to keep doing this every moment. um,
So chasing it, what I'm hearing is like chasing the high or whatever, chasing the exhilaration.
to the detriment of the rest of yourself.
Yeah, to the detriment.
I
Yep.
mean, it's good to be exhilarated a lot, but if it affects the rest of your life in a that negative way, it's not good.
Yeah. Okay. So here's where things get a little bit fun with this game is that I try to not think so much about the original words,
Mhm.
and it's brainstorming a new short word or phrase from the things that popped out of the questions. So the best of the best. We're like, what's the best of the best? And it's the words that we said was alert
Mhm.
and hyped up excitement.
Mhm.
So if you just like look at those words of alert and hyped up excitement, what kind of state does that, what word or phrase pops in your mind
You're in the present.
in the present?
Mhm. You're
Yeah.
living the present moment. You're not just in the present. You're in the present doing something you really enjoy, and you're looking forward to doing more of it.
Hmm.
Whether you're on the trail of discovering a new discovery, and you just discovered something, you just heard something, you just were, like I figured out, like I in my mind, in my mind, I'm working on this project, and this Maya model, and I thought, well, this is something I hadn't computed. What if I compute this? It'll tell me
Hmm.
that this is connected, A and B is connected. Oh, that's really
Hmm.
exciting, So that I could think of that emotion is happening there. I want to keep looking further, and I spent 2 days just going through and
Hmm.
thinking about that. So it's that type of feeling that the alertness and the excitement moves you to that direction to discover something or confirm something. Um,
Yeah.
that state, the state of that I'm combining alertness, being alert, so you're aware of what's going on, you're aware of the problems, the errors, and especially it's frustrating when you can't get two things to agree. Um, and then you keep working on it. So you're alert about what's going on, and you're also excited about what the result might be.
Yeah.
That's as close as I can get.
No, well, I mean, I think in the present really captures it.
You're in the present. You're trying, yeah, you're there. You're not thinking about tomorrow. Yeah.
I'm going to like, so alert was like, you're right on it. Alert, it just came out. It made perfect sense. When we talked about the hyped up excitement, there was this like emotional part. Like it's more than that. It's more than just, it's like hyped up emotion. It's like hyped up to another space or another place. And I'm trying to think of the situation. I'm trying to think of maybe being in the situation where the gun is pulled on you or you're in that situation where the frightening and the exhilarating might be coming together. And so I am putting myself there and I'm just thinking that alert to like hyper alert to my emotions, to the present. It's starting to feel like a scene in uh the Matrix, where I don't know if you saw the movie The Matrix, where like everything slows down and he's like he becomes in the present, and there's this like hyper awareness, hyper presence, you're like you're really in the present. It's not just in the present, it's really in the present. It's hyper in the present.
So there's a downside too, because I know I wrote an article. There's a coaching session I wrote about where this guy had childhood problems with his family, and he
Hmm.
always had to be hyper alert to what was going on. But that prevented him from being a good coach because he couldn't
Mm.
do the modeling in his head because he's always hyper aware of what the guy was saying and this. So
Mm.
so I think it has to be textured with some positive aspects.
Yeah, so this is a great point to now. So there's the flip side is the shadow side, the dark side is what's the worst of the worst. And I feel like you hinted at it already. So if we look at the words that we wrote for for the worst, we wrote down danger. It could be through paralysis and action, but
Right.
it's this danger. It's misguided. It's chasing this this to the detriment, right? This idea that it's temporary, that it's meant to be temporary, and we're trying to make something that should be temporary more than temporary. This is actually fascinating. I'm curious where your mind is going, but I know where my mind is going right
You're
now.
distorting reality. You're distorting reality. So you're not matching what's actually happening, but you're creating your own reality, your own horror situation.
Distorting reality. Boom. I mean, if you just take those two things in the present, this is the way the game works. Like, hey, I played the whole mind game with the words frightening and exhilarating, and where we got to was this synergy phrase is in the present, and this shadow side is distorting reality, right? So that's kind of the culmination of the game. Except I like to, well, there's one more piece, which is just to talk about how we can apply it to every day. There's this piece though, which is I think absolutely fascinating, which is this idea that what's best about it is also temporary, right? Like being in the present there is so much coaching and meditation and so much around living in the present, being in the present. Um, but this idea that hey, we don't want to chase necessarily being in the present and hyper aware of the present constantly. Like that's distorting reality. Reality actually is the past and the present and the future. Um, and so I think my favorite part of playing this with you is to think that like, yeah, I love being in the present. Being in the present is good. It is it's hyper excitement, and it's focused, but we don't have to live there all the time, and we don't have to take drugs to try to be there all the time. Yeah, wow.
So we're looking at ecology. What's ecological? How often
Yeah.
to be in the present? How often to be, how often, what's
Yeah. So cool. So if yeah, just thinking in terms of the game, right? What might you do differently? Would you do anything differently after, oh, we just played this game, we kind of got to this synergy of in the present and this shadow side, the dark side as it distorts reality. Is there anything that you would do differently tomorrow that you wouldn't otherwise have done after going through it?
not? I don't think so.
You're a Zen master already. You're
No,
the, you're a guru. You're already living in the present. I mean, you're already reacting with calmness on top of the fear, right?
that's my chief. I think that's my chief feeling is to be able to access calm no matter what I'm doing.
access calm no matter what you're doing. I feel like,
when needed, when appropriate.
yeah, you're the answer of no, I don't think I'd do anything different tomorrow, I think is because you're doing it already, right? And I think for me, I want to take layering calmness on top of the layering calmness on top of something,
Yeah,
layering ease on top of things that are difficult. Um, I love that visual. I'm definitely taking that one with me.
I've written articles on it, Medium. This idea about not just calmness, but owning, like for example, the power zone is where you own your emotions. You own your
Mm,
how you so you start by owning what do you own? What's something
hmm.
you actually could say you own? Well, you own your toothbrush, right?
Yeah,
Your toothbrush, no one else's toothbrush. So you get the feeling of ownership of your toothbrush, and then apply it to owning what you say, what you feel, what you think. It's sort of that putting one state on the other, ownership over, and that's this idea that from neurosemantics, which I try to apply as much as possible. I mean, I'm not perfect. When you go out,
yeah. Who is? No one's perfect, right? No one's who would I think to me the idea of perfection almost feels like death, right? It's like achieving a perfect state is just it's the end of the line, you know.
you're dead.
You're dead.
You're perfectly dead. Right?
Yeah, perfectly dead. Yes. I will be happily perfect when I'm dead. Um, Man, okay, so this is an option now. I feel like we've kind of gone through the whole thing. We did the whole show. The question is, do you want to play again with responsibility and victim, or
Sure,
do you want to leave
sure,
that
sure. No,
for
we can.
another day? You
No,
want to go for it?
why not? I mean, I have tea and coffee here. I go switch to the coffee. Two
All right.
thermoses, one of each. The morning tea and the afternoon coffee.
This one is a big one for me. Responsibility, and victim. It's there's a lot in there, right? And I think a lot of what went wrong and what went right lies in this tension. So who are you? Are you the responsible party or are you the victim? What role do you play?
So I'd like to say something about that before we go into the game.
Yeah, yeah.
So, so I felt like I was a victim from going to the war, and I was really angry when leaving it. Um,
Hmm.
um, and um, when you think of victims and you're in a blame game, you're caught up in blaming something or somebody, so you're caught up in thinking about blame, but you're only hurting yourself because you're the one that's in your mind doing that. Um, so, so what the thing you can change is how you think about it. I raise my hand. The thing you can change is what you think about, is how you think through it, how you interpret it. You can change that. You can't
Yeah,
change the past.
right.
And even I can accept the past because if I hadn't gone through that, I wouldn't be married to my wife. I wouldn't have my children. I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing because the past happened. So
Hmm.
I'm giving an optimistic explanation of the past, um,
Yeah.
not a pessimistic one. And
Hmm.
so that took a while for me to get through. That neurosemantics helped or
Hmm.
psychology helped.
Yeah, well, I think it sets the stage perfectly for it's almost like a preview to probably where we'll end up. But yeah, so what is the best of responsibility? What is the best of taking responsibility?
Being active, you're actively engaged, actively engaged. I'm assuming that it's justified. It's hard to separate from for what.
Yeah, right. Yeah, yeah.
I'm responsible for my emotions. I'm responsible for what I think.
Well, let's
I'm
say it's something really, really bad. Well, let's just say because this is where let's say it's a terrible, horrible thing, right? Like you got mugged, right? You got mugged. You're walking down the street and you're an innocent person walking down the street. You got mugged what is the best part of taking responsibility for that?
That I wasn't careful enough, that
Mm,
in karate we think, so in martial arts we think it's being situationally aware.
hmm
So I mean, I was off my game. I wasn't situationally aware. I wasn't paying attention. I was looking at my phone when I shouldn't have been. So what will I do next time? There's some responsibility on my part that,
Yeah, the best. We're thinking about the best of being the best thing, the best
oh,
part
the
of taking,
best.
yeah, the best part of taking responsibility.
The best part is that I don't um, beat myself. Right?
Okay. Yep. Yep.
The best is the best. I'm not saying, oh, terrible, terrible, terrible. Have say four Hail Marys and I know. Whatever. The best is that I'm not beating. I'm not dwelling on it. It happened. I was out there too early or too late, um, and I wasn't quick enough when the guy swung at me. You know,
hmm
so
Yeah.
what do you think?
I'm stealing this from you, by the way. Uh, it's in your story. You talk about the responsibility for perspective. And
Yeah,
so what I'm going to say is that the best part about responsibility is owning perspective.
right.
Yeah, I'm an innocent victim. I got mugged. Uh, I'm gonna own this perspective. I'm gonna own the fact that yeah, maybe I could have been more on my game. I can own not dwelling on it. I can own not beating myself up. Um, so that's kind of where I'm headed to on the best
That's what I
of.
was. That's what I was talking about earlier about owning your. It's a power zone. Owning your what people say.
Right.
Own you own. They're critical of you, but you own. You can evaluate it as it comes to you. You can own your thinking about it, feeling about it. It's self ownership. Yeah, I
Yeah,
agree.
self-ownership, owning perspective. Yeah, yeah, again, I'm taking this directly from you. Uh, so okay, so let's look at the worst of responsibility.
Is where you're taking responsibility for something you don't deserve. Like maybe you respond. You. Someone did this great thing, and you say you did it. So it's
Oh, interesting.
misguided or um,
Ooh,
self-importance.
interesting. So
Self-importance.
my mind didn't go anywhere near there. Like
No,
this
so we're
idea.
moving away from victims. Well, the victim is the person you took something away from. I mean, but yeah,
Yeah, like taking credit though, right? Like so taking
correct.
credit. Wow, fascinating. It's so fascinating because I'm thinking about now I'm getting attacked. I just got mugged, right? And to me, like when I thought about the worst of responsibility is like it's like this is my fault, right? Like this is I caused this. Like I shouldn't have been dressed this way, or I shouldn't have been out this late, or I shouldn't have taken this route. I shouldn't have parked in this part of the neighborhood. Like I'm beating myself up. Um, And what's fascinating is that beating myself up is taking credit for what happened. I'm literally taking credit for the person that mugged me. And so it's fascinating to think about like the way that you framed it was almost like I'm going to say that I'm responsible for something, for some great thing. Like my wife throws a fabulous party or something. She does the whole entire thing. She cooks the whole meal. She does the whole entire thing, and then I take credit for it. I take thank you for coming to my party that I'm responsible for. I'm taking credit for it. Uh, it's so fascinating. I just it's to take credit for something that you want, that you wish you could take credit for, but also taking credit for something that you wish did not happen to you are both on the worst side of responsibility. I think that's just amazing. You know it. You're like, oh yeah.
Well, you're doing the same thing. You're looking at both sides. I mean,
Yeah.
except now there's both sides to one side. Um,
It is like a fractal. This game is like a fractal. You just keep
exactly.
on you just, we just take everything and keep on splitting it and splitting it and splitting it. So yeah, you're like um okay, cool. So we're on to victim. Well, so weird to play this game. What is the best thing about being a victim?
Well, okay. So I think when I thought about that, I thought when I was a kid, I was bullied a lot. So the best thing about being a victim was I decided I wasn't going to be bullied. So it was like sort of energized to determination, I would say. I was determined to find out either how to talk my way out of it or um,
Determination.
determination.
Interesting.
So I'm always thinking of non-aggressive ways of encountering situations like that. How do you do it non-aggressively and get away with it? But if
Yeah.
that doesn't work, then you have to do something different. But so it's but that I try to avoid. But it's mostly about it strengthens my determination to do something different next time. Or
Yeah, I like it a lot. I'm trying to put it into context. Like, if I was never a victim of, some kind of a discrimination, say, if I was never a victim, if I just never experienced it, then I wouldn't be driven to do anything about it. I wouldn't have any drive or determination to change it. Right. And so, in many ways, maybe the best part of being a victim is perspective. Yeah, the only example, well, not the only, an example that I can think of is that I used to ride Harley Davidson motorcycles a lot. And, here I am, I'm born a privileged white kid who could pretty much do whatever I want and not get in too much trouble. And I'll never forget my first time on a long road trip alone. I was all alone on my Harley. I was 20 years old and I was going across the country. And I want to say I was in New Hampshire or Vermont. Uh, and I stopped at maybe I was in Massachusetts. I stopped at a gas station and they're like, sorry, like no, we don't fill up motorcycles here. And I'm like, what? And that trip I got discriminated against for being a motorcyclist multiple times. I grew up in a Catholic family. My dad's a Catholic deacon, and and I had gone to Notre Dame, the University of Notre Dame, summer after summer after summer because my dad had a diaconate conference there. And on this long trip, it was like I had been out on the road for a month and I was coming back through South Bend, Indiana to a campus that I had been on, 16 summers of life growing up. And I pulled up to the gates and they're like, sorry, you know, no, no motorcycles allowed on this campus. And my dad was like losing his mind, like, I called up my dad, like the whole plan to stay on campus is shot because they won't let me on the campus. And I think about this period of my life. It's nothing compared to being, a woman. It's nothing compared to being black, right? It's not even a drop in the bucket. However, it's at least an experience that I had of being a victim of discrimination to have some perspective that it exists in the world, right? Um, So you put determination. I think I'm going to put perspective.
yeah, I think that's good. It changes your perspective. It changes how you frame things. My mind perspective means how you're going to frame things, and me too. Determined to frame things differently, or what's the frame? It's determination to frame things differently in the future. And framing to me is like having a different perspective
Yeah,
about. So I can make sense of that.
that's awesome. Okay. So what is the worst part of being a victim?
Dying
Dying. It's death.
or serious injury.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not an emotion, it's a situation. Um,
Yeah. I mean, that's the way that it doesn't get worse than death and dismemberment, right? I mean,
but I see psychologically, it could demoralize. It's demoralizing. If
demoralizing.
allowed to continue, it's demoralizing. Victim again and again and again is demoralizing.
Yeah. It's death. It's demoralizing. It's terrible. Okay. We won't dwell there. Um, so the best of the best, what we've got. See, this is why I love playing this game because I look
It's
back and I'm
very.
like,
I find it very interesting. The game. It's interesting. It's interesting. It gives you insights.
the best of the best we wrote down. A few of the words that we wrote down were owning perspective and framing things different.
Mhm.
The owning perspective and the determination to frame things different. Um, so I'll say all the words that I wrote down. Actively engaged, don't beat myself up, not dwelling, owning perspective, determination, frame things different. What does that all add up to in
There's
your
some things we're going toward to, and some things we're going away from. So the victim is bringing us, adding not just what we want to go toward, but both. I want to go toward this like a propulsion, being pulled forward by the positive things and being pushed by the negative things. So I'm going away from negative and going toward the positive traits because you listed both kinds, toward and positive, toward and negative.
you know what? I just see Martin Luther King, right? Like I see own perspective framed different.
Mhm.
I see like I have a dream of a different perspective and I own this dream and I am going to make the future different.
Right,
We're going to do something different about this.
right. That makes sense.
Um, yeah, so when someone
And we're determined to.
and determined, yeah, like that's
It's not just going to do it. I'm determined to do it. It's going to happen.
yeah, I own the perspective. I see a different world and I'm determined to get it done.
Right.
So cool. So cool. Yeah, this is well, well after we do the worst of the worst. Okay. So what's the worst of the worst? The words that I wrote down was self-imposed, taking credit, beating myself up, and death. Demoralizing. Self-imposed,
Um,
taking credit.
you're again the reality. You're have a full sense of your own importance, self-importance. You that gets in the way of what's actually in the world. You're just deluding yourself as what's going on. I'm thinking, it's
Mm,
um, the Walter Mitty type life there, except it's negative.
yeah, taking credit for death though, right? Like taking credit for being demoralized. Uh, self,
Taking credit for demoralizing others. I don't know.
yeah. Well, but it's self-imposed demoralization, self-imposed death, self-imposed pain. It's taking credit for that pain. It's over owning it, right? It's
When I think of taking credit, I think taking credit for other people's accomplishments.
yeah.
So
Yeah,
so
taking credit for the person that mugged us, taking credit for the person who threw the party.
that's others.
Yep.
So there's an other self aspect to this.
Yeah.
So it's like a flip coin here.
Yeah.
But in the fractal world, it's others and self. So
Yeah.
others, it's taking the credit for what they've done, and for self, you're creating a bunch of negative states for yourself, demoralization,
hmm Yeah, creating, I mean, you're creating a negative state for yourself.
Mhm.
Uh,
That makes that spirals, a spiraling negative state. So you're sinking deeper and deeper into it, and as you keep doing it, it makes it worse. So it's a downward spiral, I think of,
yeah, I like that. Downward spiral.
because you get to believe it, and then you believe it, it makes it worse because you believe it further. It makes you, it reconfirms negative stuff over and over again
Yeah.
and emphasizes it.
Yeah, it's a downward spiral to it's a downward spiral that's demoralizing and leads to death.
A, re, a reinforcing negative loop, as it was.
There we go. We're getting the physics into a reinforcing negative loop.
It's in system dynamics, positive loops and negative loops, feedback.
What what I just what I love this so much that so it's I feel like the having this at least a pseudo answer, do I take responsibility or am I a victim? And say, you know what? It's not about taking responsibility or being a victim. It's about being determined to own a perspective and frame a different future, make a different future. So I'm not choosing this one or that one. I'm choosing to be determined to change the future and for the better.
Right, because that's an attitude that you can bring with you, to change your frame of situation.
Yeah. And whether or not I play if I can be responsible and I can be responsible or I can be the victim and either way I could end up in a downward spiral of destruction and death, right? So it's choosing that synergy. Man, that was
Interesting.
especially a fun one to play. Yeah. Thank you for playing with me.
Anytime.
Wow, this has been really, really good. I appreciate you diving in and jumping on this experiment with me. I have no idea where I'm going with this podcast, but I'm going. It's moving.
Well, I enjoyed it. I mean, I listened to the previous one and a half, and I thought I enjoyed it. I thought it was, it's a good idea. It's a great idea, actually, to what you're doing. The stages. I read the material you gave me beforehand. I thought this is a really intriguing idea. So
Cool. Well, thanks for jumping in and participating. And your story is it's nothing short of inspiring. And the I'll put emergent in the show notes and all that and I look forward to seeing you at writing groups. We got one coming up in like
50 minutes.
yeah, less than an hour. So
I know, I know.
stretch your legs, do a little move around a little bit, get that blood pumping, and I'll see you in a writing group in a little while. All right. Thanks so much, Pascal. You have a,
Thank you
a
very much.
wonderful day. I'll see you soon.
Okay, bye.
All right.